On the program this morning to pick it off from where we left off as we continue to analyze issues in the news and review the state of our beloved nation, Nigeria. We'll be joined by a media expert and the former head Northern Operations of one of the print medias in Nigeria, the Nigerian Tribune, Sanya Adejokun, who joins us virtually. Hello, good morning to you, sir. Compliments of the season, a happy new year, and thanks for joining us on the program.
Happy New Year to you and to our viewers.
Now, I would like for us to begin with one of the prominent issues in the news emanating from Edo State, where there were some controversies rocking the end of 2024 on the suspension of certain local government chairmen by the state governor, Senator Monday Okpebolo. Now, this morning, the governor has reiterated some of the allegations leveled against the chairman, who he says are cohorting with the opposition party, the PDP in the state, in what he has described as a 12 billion naira fraud. What do you make of these allegations as leveled by the state governor on the local government chairman?
Yeah, let's look at it from let me look at it from a slightly different perspective and say that yes, it's a terrible thing for people to steal, because fraud is stealing. It's when we look at when we want to be esoteric, we begin to call it misappropriation, we call it all manner of sweet names. But stealing is stealing, which is terrible. But who has the authority to catch the thief? Is it the governor? Who catches the governor? So I believe that the governor is wrong to say that he is suspending local government chairmen because of allegations of fraud. I'm not, like I said, stealing is stealing, which is terrible. But a governor does not have the right or the privilege to suspend a governor or a local government chairman. A local government chairman was elected the same way as the governor was elected. And so, if there are suspicions that some people have stolen money, have pilfered, have committed fraud, then you report them to the appropriate authority. That's why we have the EFCC. That's why we have the police. The police still have the fraud unit functioning. That's why we have the ICPC. And that's why we have the DSS, and so on and so forth. So we have established constitutionally recognized organs to deal with some of these things. It's not for the governor to wake up one day and say, you have stolen, and then you are going home. By what authority? And I'm happy that it happened first from an APC state, because as soon as it happened last year, I remember that the Attorney General of the Federation quickly came out to say, no, you have no right to do that. And so if it had been an APC state or an opposition state, then there could have been such political undertones and say it's because it is not happening in an APC state. So it's good that it happened in an APC state, and the Attorney General of the Federation stated it immediately and very clearly that, look, Governor, you are wrong. You cannot do this.
Now, thank you, Mr. Adejokun, by setting the background for these conversations owing to the ambits of what the law allows as plausible. Now, the governor has also petitioned the EFCC, and whilst this is the case, people are asking that what would be the antecedents going forward, especially in this birthing period for conversations on local government autonomy and the role of state governors in allowing that autonomy to thrive?
The point that we have had since 1990, shortly after 1999, is this tendency for governors to think that they are emperors. You know, the governors have tend to appropriate local governments. They now think that they are headmasters and the local government chairmen are just class captains that they can remove and emplace the way they like. At times they even pretend that they are using the state assembly to remove them, which is wrong. You cannot do that. So what we have to do, especially with local government autonomy and within the Supreme Court judgment, which is very clear, that you cannot, the local government system is recognized, and there are proper channels that you should take when you want to do certain things with them. But of course, we all know that the governors are not happy We know that already they are enacting certain laws that will continue to make local government something that they can play with, because we know that many of them have borrowed money. We know, and so they are unhappy. They have borrowed so much money based on local government allocation, which they are using, and people are now happy that look, now we can have some development at that level. It is true that there should be control, yeah, and I think the president was also right when he told the governors in December or so, when they went to visit him in Lagos, to say, we are not taking local government from you. The local government belongs to the state. This is a federation. The federation is made up of two tiers of government, the federal and the state. The local government is not a federating unit. It's under the state government. But there are laws that they are under state government does not mean that a governor will just come and then do whatever he likes, as if the local government system is part of what he can just use the way he likes. It's a system of government that was in place for certain reasons, for development. So it is not proper for state governments to think that I can do whatever I like with the local government in my state. No, it's not like that.
Now, having referenced the statement made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the visiting governors at his Bodilon residence in Ikeja, Lagos, on not devolving them of their powers as it concerns local governments. Now, he's being considered a chairman and a champion for this cause when it comes to third-tier grassroots development. But the challenge is that across different party lines now, we're also seeing the aggrieved parts in states where they are questioning the emergence of elected local government chairmen and those who are supposed to work alongside them. Do we also need to somewhat amend our electoral laws, or even in the operations of the state independent electoral commissions, in the emergence and the conduct of elections that will bet local chairmen for a credibility of the process and for a full implementation of local government autonomy?
It's a bit tough. It's a bit tough because we are so divided. We are so divided in the sense of partisanship. What I've seen in recent times is that people no longer consider what is right and proper. They only consider the interest of their parties. When somebody is in APC today, he begins to argue, and no matter what the APC does, whether it is wrong or right, he says it is right. When he goes back to PDP, maybe if he lost election or he loses nomination, and he goes to PDP or he goes to PRP or he goes to AMPP or he goes to any other party, he begins to argue exactly the opposite way. So the thing is, all of them are the same. Politicians in Nigeria are the same. Winner takes all. I have not seen a state, or probably, I have not seen, where they conducted local government elections and the party controlling the state did not win all the local government chairmanship seats, even the councillorship seats. They are not even willing to allow only one councillorship seat to go.
Let's look at the River State scenario where there was also accusations that Sir Siminalayi Fubara, the governor, in the party that won most of the local government seats, had his backing in some sort. What do you think of that case scenario in River State in reference to the point we're just looking to make?
You see, I think in the case of River State, Governor Fubara was still in the process of getting his bearing, getting his footing. He wasn't sure of what will happen. So he put a leg in one of those other parties. I can't remember the name of that party now. One leg in it, and then put one leg in PDP, so that in case he loses in PDP, he will go to that place, and if that one failed to work, he will be back in PDP. I think that's what happened. But whatever it is, it was still him that won the election. It was still him in that party. I can't remember what's the name of that party now. It was still him in that party.
The APP.
Yes, it was.
Having won 22 seats in the River State local government elections.
Yes, so it was still Fubara in that party, and it was still Fubara in PDP. So it's still the same thing all over. Okay, if we want to consider the example of River State and Governor Fubara, for instance, I don't want to digress, but look at what is happening in the State House of Assembly. Will anybody say, in what way, how can anybody justify that a 3-man panel will constitute the State House of Assembly? But if you listen to people now who are in PDP, they will say yes, that's how it should be. That those other ones have lost their seat. If you listen to people in other parties, PDP, APC, they will say no, he has lost their seat. But if you are a non-partisan, if you are a Nigerian and you are just patriotic, you look at it and say, does it even make common sense for 3 persons, just like it happened in Edo? You remember sometimes ago during the period of the last governor, when 2 people or 3 people or 5 persons was also legislated for the whole state for the whole term that the man lasted. It's not good. It's not good for our democracy. I think, but maybe it's still a process of development. Maybe as time goes by, we will do what is right. But all of them are the same.
Now, there is conversations, particularly stemming from Edo State and in other states, which we will talk about, where the Edo State governor has also submitted 6 names for approval and appointment as commissioners. That often at times the governors treat the local government chairman as though they were part of their cabinets and would reshuffle the cabinet at will. And it's almost a temptation to do that to local government chairman. Do you think that this were the case? And if this is the case, how do we disabuse the mind of governors from carrying on with this tradition?
It's not easy. It's not easy to disabuse their mind. It will be forceful. It will be legal. We cannot plead with them, because let me cite an instance. In one of the states, in one of the southwest states, for instance, I'm not going to be specific. In one of the southwest states, the governor committed local government administration, each of those local government, to buy security doors. Now, if you go to that state now, and when you go to any of those local government, you find out that they are keeping those security doors in one of their stores because there is nowhere to fix them. But he had already awarded that contract, and it was bought for all the local government and even the LCDAs that he created. So that is what state governors are doing with local government funds. They use local government. It's like slush funds. So if somebody is used to using local government funding as slush funds, and you now say you are appealing to him, you're appealing to what now? Corruption is not something that is you just appeal to people that please don't be corrupt again, and then they will just say okay, now we are born again. No. It's going to be forceful not in terms of physical fighting, but in terms of going to court, insisting on what is right. The people, the citizens themselves, have to also come out and say, no, Mr. Governor, enough is enough. We want development. That's the only way that we are going to do it. Otherwise, if we say we are appealing, do you appeal to a witch to stop killing children? You don't. You force a witch. You defeat a witch. So that's what is happening in our system. That's why many people go into governorship election now anyway, just to fleece, just to help themselves. They are not going there to help the people. So if we say this thing that is going on, they consider local government. That's why they handpick. Many years ago, if you remember, in Ekiti State, we had a local government chairman in Ekiti then who was opposing the governor. Eventually, the man died. I'm not accusing the governor of anything, but it was coincidental, and it was fortunate for the governor that the man should just die like that. Was it an accident? I can't remember now. That's what is happening. State governors are they are emperors, But the good thing is that they now have one of them as the president. So he was governor for 8 years, and now he is president. So he also knows all the tricks, and it takes a thief to catch a thief. So probably because he's been there.
Metaphorically speaking, just to be correct.
He knows all the tricks, and maybe metaphorically speaking, yeah. So that's what I think is going to happen.
Now let's talk about the governors more. It's another issue in the news, and many talk about the need for them to assert controls. We'll cite a few examples, and starting with Nasarawa State, where Governor Sule was more open with his reasons for the sack of some of his cabinet members, citing non-loyal persons and the need for square pegs in square holes as the reason why he's rejigging and shaking up his cabinet. Do you see a case where, after a year or two in office, such persons need to go?
Not necessarily, but that's the essence of governance. That's the essence of life. Once in a while, you sit back, you take stock. Am I doing well? Am I meeting my objectives? Are the people that I picked, are they doing what I expect them to do? Are people happy with my administration? Governor Sule, for instance, I must say that I really commend Governor Sule, the way he's doing the administration of that state. He appears very enlightened. I think he came from the private sector, so he has a hair and he's widely traveled before he ventured into politics. So the way he's administering well, technically, not as a typical politician, but as somebody who brought an idea, who brought a desire to move the state forward. And you can see it in some of the things that he's doing. He's been attracting investors into the state, the mining sector in that state. We have always known Nasarawa as a mining state anyway, but what have they done with it before he came? So he's been doing that. He's been doing recently. I think he also passed the State Assembly also passed this their power reform act, the power reform bill. So they also now want to be serious about the electricity power situation and so on and so forth. So for a state governor, his cabinet is his cabinet, which is very, very different from local government administration. He's the one that appointed the cabinet members. They were not elected. He appointed them. He put them in where he feels that they are going to work for him. But after a while, if they are not working, I think President Tinubu also did something like that recently. He also picked some people. He threw away some people. The national state government. It's the normal thing. You don't even have to spend a year. If I put you in a place and after 2-3 months I see that you are not the person that I thought that you are, and I can fire you. I pick another one, which is what we want. It's not in the interest of citizens, for those who are privileged, because getting appointment into government is privilege to come and serve, and you are not being alive to your responsibility. You are not doing well. People are not feeling your impact, and you are going to dent the image or the administration of the governor. Then I think it's well in his right to say thank you very much. I wish you luck in your future endeavor.
Now, I'm talking about such appointments also being more like a reward for the role individuals played in the emergence of governors during elections, other than having technocrats as were intended by some of the portfolios and the technical aspects of carrying out such jobs. We're now seeing in Bauchi State as well, where the governor, Bala Mohammed, has also removed 5 members from his cabinet. In keeping it in mind that such portfolios have a bit of technicality other than more of a political disposition, do you think we'd ever find a time in Nigeria when people would actually look at technocrats ahead of setting rewards for loyalty or roles played in the emergence of candidates in an election?
Yeah, I think we also have to be careful when we mention when we define things. When you say a technocrat can also be a politician. A politician can be a technocrat. Ordinarily, everybody should be a technocrat. I mean, the idea that when we now have people saying that they are politicians, how can you be a career politician, for instance? What do you do? If you are not appointed in the government, you should have something that you are doing. Yes, you should have something that you are doing. So if you are a journalist, I'm a journalist, for instance. So we are technocrats in our own right. If we have opportunity, okay, come and do something in government. You go in. After you serve your term, you go back to your employment or to whatever you are doing. But when we also have to look at it and say, when we say reward, yes, politicians will reward people who work for them. But when we say reward, you also, there are enough people, even among your support system, that are able to do things. it doesn't mean that when you say, for instance, there are engineers who support a candidate. So after you have emerged as probably governor or local government chairman or president, then you can pick any of those who have been in your system to man certain positions. So they are politicians are also technocrats, and technocrats are also politicians. So, but the only thing is that when you are appointing people into office, it is good to look more at competence than to say this is the son of this person, this is the daughter of this person, and so we have to continue to reward them. No, no, no. We should look at those who are competent. It doesn't matter whether their fathers are good are big men or not. Yeah, big men are also members of this society, and they probably served the society, and that's why they became big men. So their offspring, that shouldn't be a disadvantage to their offspring to also serve. But the point is, you should look at competence, not only because the father is X this, X that. That shouldn't be the case. The case should be who can better serve the interest of Nigerians.
Well, let's move on to another issue in the news worthy of note. This morning, especially off the back of a health advisory issue to Nigeria upon this human metapneumonia virus people are talking about that has come up in China, we're now having conversations about the challenges of our health sector. Remember during the pandemic, it was so glaring that we lacked PPEs. There were little preparations on ground to equip Nigerian health workers to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Now there's another COVID-like scare around the corridors, and people are having those conversations again on our preparedness levels. Let's take the health sector from the angle of migration, which happens to be one of the big challenges people are talking about. A number of our best hands and brains have jackpot. In light of these challenges, how do we begin to approach these issues under the watch of the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Ali Pate?
Again, I also believe that we should be careful in analyzing our country. No matter how ill people speak about Nigeria, we have never come out the worst in some of these situations. We have never. You remember during Ebola, Ebola came, we overcame Ebola, and then after that, we also had this COVID-19, and then when COVID-19 came, people thought that in Africa, you will now begin to see people, dead bodies on the streets and so on and so forth, that we were not prepared, that we were not well prepared and so on. But what happened at the end of the day? Although people died, but we didn't come out the worst among the people, among the world. You look at the US, even the almighty US, you look at France, you look at Germany, you look at the places that people normally we call saner climes. That's what they call them. They call them saner societies. But did they worse us? No. So there is a way that Nigerians we always come out in times of trouble, and we are always overcoming. Now, that is coming from China. I don't know why China is always the culprit. Every terrible thing seems to emanate from China. Maybe it's because of their R&D. They're always doing research and development, and then these genomes are always escaping from their bottles and troubling the world. But again, because Nigerians are high travelers, we travel a lot. People come into Nigeria, we go out, people come, people go. And so there is no way that I think that we are going to prevent this from coming to Nigeria. The only thing is that now, fortunately, I think we have some people like in our health ministry. We have our health minister who is very, very experienced in some of these things. He did it in Nigeria. He went overseas. He excelled, and he has come back. Even our Minister of State for Health is also somebody that is globally experienced. So I think that by and large we will overcome. We are apprehensive. We are waiting, but we know that we also appeal to government. We appeal to health ministry. We appeal to those in charge, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and to also get prepared. Those things that we were lacking, we've had experiences now. We know where our strength lies. We know where our weaknesses lies. And so we should, by all means, do everything that is possible to minimize the damage that will likely happen.
Now, I like the optimism in your voice and your approach to the subject matter. And whilst commending our healthcare providers, the Ministry of Health for the efforts in past pandemics and whatnot, there are some internal challenges that continue to affect us. 2024 showed a number of health institutions in Lagos and Ibadan where patients were lamenting having to use torchlights, candles, and the electricity not being stable, as it were, in those institutions. The institutions, on their own part, complained about the outrageous bills that they were receiving from the service providers, the power providers as well. Do you think at this point there might be a need for a different approach in providing electricity supply to these critical institutions that the lives of many Nigerians are hinged on?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think I read something about that late last year when, was it the Minister of Power or something, said that they were going to reduce the tariff payable by health institutions. So that's a first step. Yeah. The second step, which is also a bit technical, and I believe that's the challenge that we are going to face in 2025, is about tariff. What do we do about tariff? We complain, over the years, things have got worse in the electricity sector. We did privatization, nothing seemed to have improved, not much improvement have been witnessed. And what is the cause of this? I think that the cause is tariff. Without, we don't want to pay, I don't want to pay much, really. But the reality is, it is a private sector now. Okay, government says that it is paying subsidy for those who are not on band A. It is paying subsidy for band B, C, D, or whatever. But the point is, it is on paper that government is paying this subsidy. In reality, government is not paying. So, government is owing those companies. I know that presently, government is owing about 2 trillion naira to electricity companies. Those ones are also owing gas companies. And it is not public, and it is not government owned again. So, the government says it is subsidizing, but it is not paying. It is not servicing those subsidies. It means that those companies are not able to generate, and because they are not generating enough, the transmission will also be weak. And if the transmission is weak, the distribution segment will also be weak. So what do we do? How do we tackle this? It's a bit complicated. I'm not pretending that I have the solution, but I'm just saying that the electricity sector is witnessing a lot of challenges. A lot. If government is going to subsidize, let government go ahead and seize the subsidy. Now, if you are owing 2 trillion naira and in the budget you put 200 billion, so you pay 200 billion out of 2 trillion in 1 year. Imagine what will have accumulated of the new year, of another year. So it keeps increasing. And so these companies that we say, they also have what to do. So it's a bit technical, but talking about the health sector, I believe that government says it has reduced their tariff. And so once you have reduced the tariff, the thing to do is to ensure that you service it. Because you mentioned Ibadan, which is UCH, which is under the, I think, Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company or something like that. Yeah. What IBDC was saying is that you are owing us. So if government says it's subsidizing, pay the subsidy. If you are not subsidizing, let everybody know. You cannot be subsidizing by mouth, by words of mouth, and you are not remitting the money to those companies. They have obligations.
Now, in spite of all these challenges, the persons who bear the brunt of it are Nigerians who seek for healthcare from these institutions. And quite
Sure.
recently, the cost of healthcare has skyrocketed, cost of over the counter medication,
Mm.
cost of service as well. It leaves us grappling with the
Yeah.
conversations on where our national health insurance scheme was envisioned to be and how well Nigerians have been able to
Mm.
access it. What's your evaluation of our national
Yeah.
health insurance scheme in line with this high cost of obtaining medical care? I see you laughing already.
I don't know. You see, well, they say they are trying, they say they are doing things, and I think that they are doing things, particularly for civil servants, for public servants, and for the organized private sector. You see, I think that if you look at it now, look at the organized private sector, look at the public service. What is the percentage of of those people in Nigeria's population? I believe that people in the informal sector constitute the overwhelming majority of Nigerians. And so, until we have the the National Health Insurance Scheme covering, having a universal coverage, having they devising a way by which even people, vulcanizers, conductors, drivers, even people who are in the SMEs are able to fund it themselves, by way of little payment. That's when we can say that it is effective. Because if we have a scheme that is covering probably less than 30% of the population, it means that there is trouble. There is trouble for the majority of the people, and that's why we have death now. People can't even, if you can't even buy the shelf drug, you can't buy anti-malaria drugs, you can't find the pain relievers. Most of the drugs that we have on the shelf now are even fake or substandard, because the cost of the original products are very prohibitive now. Very, very prohibitive. Very few people can afford them. And that's why we have all these alternative medicine practitioners fleecing people, even though most of them are not effective. I'm not saying that they are not effective, but most of them are just fake. They are just substandard. They don't even know what they are treating. You find somebody now who says that he has the cure for cancer. What causes cancer? You don't even know. So how do you say that you have a cure for an ailment that you don't even know what is causing it? That's the problem that we have. So in terms of NHIS, for those people who are fortunate enough to work under government or in the organized private sector, yeah, I think that they are covered. But for the vast majority of Nigerians, it is problematic. People are really suffering and people are dying.
Nani, moving on, but also in a way related to what we're discussing about, people talk about the role of nutrition as the first step of medication for a well being of any individual. People talk about how much of a food crisis that Nigeria might face in 2025. Do you think we're headed for a food crisis this year?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that we are already in food crisis. It's not that we are headed for it. We are already in food crisis, where people no longer look at what the quality of what they eat. They no longer care about it. What people do now is just to eat for survival, and it is dangerous. It's dangerous, especially for our toddlers, for our infants, because you know what they say, that if a child does not eat well within the first is it 60 months or 50 months of existence, the brain is damaged forever. The child will be stunted, the brain will refuse to grow very well. And so what are we expecting in future, as a future for our country, if we have children that are not developing properly? And even adults, look at people now. People are emaciating. People drink gari now. They just drink gari. They can't afford bread. They can't afford yam. They can't afford the good food. People know who talks about balanced diet any longer. Who? I've not had a balanced diet from a certain segment of the society for a long time now. It's only those who are fortunate, who are able to. And the economic situation that we find ourselves is also more problematic for the downtrodden, because even when you are lucky and you are afloat, you now use the excess, to shore up yourself. What normally you are using to help others, you can no longer use it to help others. You are not using it to help yourself. And so the problem is more for those people that are less privileged than for people that are privileged. And so I really don't know. Government says that it is working. The president says that is importing probably 2,000 tractors from Brazil. That issue of tractors from Brazil has been with us now forever. I remember that at least in the last probably 10 years, governments have been talking about importing tractors from Brazil, and we have not seen anything. I hope that the current government is also not towing the same line. And then they say they are subsidizing farmers. Yeah, well, I don't know. I've not seen it. We had it. Was it early last year or so, that they were going to subsidize wheat farming? How many months? Wheat is supposed to be about 6 months or so to harvest. We've had about 1 year now, and yet we have not seen the evidence of those subsidies. We should begin to see the evidence. This government is already close to 2 years in office, and I'm sure that by the first or second quarter of this year, people will begin now to agitate for 2027 very seriously. So there will be distraction. I think whatever the government says it is doing, we should begin to see evidence right now. We do not have time. It is 4 years from the lives of Nigerians, and when you calculate 4 years times 200, is it 250 million people? You know how many years that is in contention now. So government, I believe, should be serious. If you are doing subsidy, if you are helping farmers, let's begin to see it. What are the governments? They recently constituted the board of what is it now? Water River Basin Development Authorities. Let us begin to see their action, particularly those in the south. We know that River Basin in the north, Adejia, Jamari, for instance, and they are doing fairly well. But we also have Ogwoshu in the south. We also have Benin Owena in the south, and like that. What are they doing over the years? Let these people, it's not enough to just draw salaries every year. It's not enough to just draw money from the budget. Let us see action. Let the people see what government is doing. Look at fertilizer. How many farmers were able to use fertilizer last year, for instance? If a bag of fertilizer is sold for, was it 45,000 naira? How many farmers can buy? And that's why people are not having enough yield. And the population is growing. We have a country that is so religious that when you talk about family planning or limiting the number of children, people are angry. People say that it is God that provides children and it is God that will feed them. But what are we doing in order to be able to feed these people? Look at countries that are prospering. They are not having as much children as we that are not yet doing so well. So I think government should. I don't see food inflation going down soon enough. I don't see it.
Now, talking about government intervention, a lot of people have also knocked the implementation of the 150 duty-free window that was given by the government for food importation of certain commodities, wheat to be included, the husk, maize, and others. That policy seems not to have hit its intended target. I don't know who is to bear the fault. Is it the Nigerian Customs Service? Is it the implementing partners? But where did we miss it on the food waiver to also help with the food crisis situation?
Has it even commenced?
It did. It commenced last year and it was supposed to elapse 31st December.
No, it did not commence. When I ask whether it has commenced, what I mean is, has any food been imported on that through that policy? No. That's why I said it has not commenced. Mere mention of policy is different from implementation. We should reduce the gap between policy formulation and policy implementation, because we are talking about lives, for Christ's sake. It is lives. We've been talking about this waiver for more than 6 months now, and yet no importation has yet happened. No food has landed on the shores of this country based on that. So has it started? No. I read it in the news about 2 or 3 days ago, that we are yet to begin to import them. What is the problem? So it is also within. That's why, you asked a question about changing cabinet. If you know that you have people in your cabinet that are not alive enough to their responsibility, that are not aligning with your vision, let them go, for Christ's sake. We have enough people in this country who are passionate to make things work. Let things work. Formulate policy, yeah, but implementation is the most important. It's not enough to just go to the pages of newspaper and be populist and begin to mention things that will make people happy, whereas at the end of the day they will not feel the impact.
Now, talking about feeling impact, another major issue in the news is the impact of the NNPCL. Now, former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was very critical about the NNPCL, and even the coming on board of the Warri refineries, he was not so optimistic. Off the back of his comments, the NNPCL said they were inviting him to come on a tour of the revamped Warri refinery and Port Harcourt refinery as well, and he says it is an insult. Let's get your take on this development as well.
With all due regards to the position of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, he's an elder, he's a chief, he's a former president, he's a statesman and everything. With due regard to all those, I will want to opine that Chief Obasanjo is a bitter soul. I look at him as somebody who does not want anybody to outshine him, and I think that is not a good. It's not a good trait of a leader. A leader, a former president, is someone who is supposed to be a nationalist, should be eager for those coming behind him to do better than him, because that's how a nation will continue to develop until we get to our desired destination. Because Obasanjo failed in that position, in that endeavor, he believes that every other person must fail, or that there's nothing any other person could have done or will do to be better than him. Now, you said it openly, you said it clearly in an interview. You made it's a Yoruba proverb he alluded to, because there's a Yoruba proverb that says, if you planted 200 yams, but you are boasting that you planted 400. Well, when it is harvest time, by the time you harvest the 200 and you eat it, you will also go and harvest the remaining fake 200 and you will eat it. And so it is you that will suffer the consequence. That's what he said. He did not write the president. He did not write NNPC. He did not seek private inquiry. He did not seek private discussion to be able to know what is happening. He said it openly. And so why will he expect them to now come and kneel down in his altar house and then beg him and say, Oga, please come and follow us to come and go and see that we have done proper? The thing to do is to look at, do we have scarcity? NNPC says it is functional. People, even the media people have gone there, they have seen it. We are not having scarcity everywhere. There is no fuel station that you get to now that you don't have fuel. Well, Dangote is working very well, and then the NPC says it is working very well. And if OBJ thinks that it is a fake, then he should go there. What is the insult? Did he not insult them by saying that they were telling lies? Is it not an insult for somebody to confront you and say you are a liar? It's an insult. And so respect begets respect. If you had done it in another form, if you had probably also, because of the man that he is, his stature, if you had called the NNPC MD to say, hey Mele, are you sure that this thing that you are telling us is correct? Then the man will have explained to him and probably arranged also for him in a dignified way. But because they also have the right to reply him the way that they deem fit. I don't see any insult in that. The most important thing is that our refinery is working. They said the refineries are working, and we are seeing evidence. They are showing us evidences. What else does Chief Obasanjo want except to see that because he failed to perform, no other person? And
Now, the
that's not good
ex-president also
for an elder
cited,
statesman.
in reference to the functionality of the Warri refinery, some comments made earlier by Shell Petroleum Development Company that the Warri refinery might not function optimally, and he was citing the fact that for now, it is just AGO and kerosene that is being churned out. Do you think that, off the back of that reference, Nigerians also need to be keen-eyed on how functional, because we're hearing it's at 60%, that the Warri refinery can function optimally?
But what did they tell us? NNPC itself did not say that Warri is functioning 100%. Remember, it was NNPCL that says that these are the products that we are churning out from there. For now, while the remaining what now? While we continue with the rehabilitation, the company was specific. It went there with TV cameras and so on and so forth. So it's not. I don't think that. Well, for now, I do not think that they are lying based on what we have seen. They said it is not functioning 100%. They said so. And so, what else are we supposed to hear from them? What we are supposed to hear from them is that, okay, if, for instance, if they had said, Warri, we are through now, everything is functioning, everything is perfect, and then we now begin to see that, no, it is only AGO, it is only LFPO that they are turning out, we will say, you guys are lying. But they said it, they were the ones who came to tell us, and they mentioned. Now, Shell, why will Shell, for instance, why will Shell love Nigeria? You remember, let me also recall something. During the period of President Goodluck Jonathan, he was also desirous of bringing our refineries to functionality. And when he also felt that, well, probably because of what Shell told the President Obasanjo, that those things were outdated and we should scrap them, he now decided to build new refineries. He called them greenfield refineries, and they had already picked sites for them. I remember one was in Kogi State, when people of the Ebira people and the Igala people were quarreling over where the thing would be sited. But you know what? One of these people came, the international president of one of these oil majors, came to Nigeria, met with President Goodluck Jonathan at Aso Rock, and convinced him that the world was awash with petroleum products, refined products, and that there was no need for Nigeria to establish any other refineries. And so that was how the idea died. So these people will always want their, and meanwhile, they never stopped buying our oil, Abi. So if they were buying our oil, exporting it, and bringing it back to us, you remember that if you buy a barrel of crude oil for probably $70, what will come out of it at the end of the day will be about $2,000. So why would they want us to develop our own refineries if they can continue to make profit from us? That's the thing. So that Shell said something is not functional does not mean that it is not functional. Did President Obasanjo invite Nigerian experts? Did he invite? We have people in the diaspora who are good in every field of human endeavor. Did he invite any of them who, through their patriotic zeal, will tell him the truth? He did not. He asked Shell. Shell told him that they are really not into downstream, that their major operation is in the upstream. So how will President Obasanjo now take that to the bank and say, because of that, Nigeria is going to fold its arm and then just allow anything to go, and then we will be spending probably a quarter of our foreign spending on importation of refined crude? You know, that's why we have accretion in recent times, and it will continue to grow. By the end of 2025, you will see where our foreign reserve will be, because we will be importing less. It is petroleum products that is consuming the most part of our external reserve. So I think that it's neither here nor there. I will not support President Obasanjo on this particular issue.
We're still on the NNPCL, and just to also commemorate with the 60th birthday of the GCO, Alhaji Mele Kyari, but not forgetting the legal debates that have also sparked on the duration of his tenure as GCO of NNPCL. It's quite a mixed reaction day. When you go online, you see some felicitations. Beneath those felicitations, you see comments on persons who would be his likely successors. Names that are thrown into the conversation, the likes of Kida, the likes of Ojulari are also being mentioned as regards the NNPCL. What do you make of his tenure so far, and what are your thoughts on the personality of Mr. Kyari?
Well, personality, no, let me talk about the tenor. I'm not close to him in any way, so I won't be able to sincerely comment on his personality, because what we see on TV may be different from what is going on inside the boardroom. But concerning his, as an NPC MD, I think we have seen progress. I think so, because we are all Nigerians and we are in this field, and we have seen what NNPC has been able to do over the years, and in recent times we see what NNPC has done. Concerning the talk about succession and so on, we are Nigerians, we like to distract ourselves a lot. What does not bother most people is what we will begin to quarrel over. Let's remember that NNPC has added L. Now, it's no longer NNPC only. It is no longer a corporation like that. It is now a limited liability company. And in limited liability companies, 60 years is not a bar to retirement. It's not. It's no longer strictly a government establishment, although it is owned by the federation. But it is now a company, And so, what obtains KAMA, the Companies and Allied Matters Act, is what will now guide the activities of NNPCL. So I do not believe that because he is 60, then he must go. Although I must also say that I have not seen their new laws or their new manual or their staff manual. I have not seen it, so I don't know what the retirement age is now. But it is no longer in the days when we say because he was a staff, and that because federal government staff or government employees must retire at 60, then he also must retire now at 60. The same controversy surrounds the tenure of the Inspector General of Police. Normally when you join the police at 60 or after 35 years, you retire. But there is a new law that has been signed which says that it is now a tenured appointment. But Nigerians, I don't know, we have too many things that should bother us, which is, and this one, an elite thing, who can become the managing director of NNPC? Is it people on Facebook? Is it people on Twitter? Yeah, some people on Twitter, but not people. Most people on Facebook will not even aspire to that thing. So what people, ordinary Nigerians, should concern themselves with is, how do I get drugs to buy? How do I eat good food? How do I get employment? How do I, some of these things, how do I get good shelter? This housing issue now that is escalating, the rent is escalating. How do I live in a good house? How do I move from, look at this, our Abuja light rail now. This is January already. Shouldn't it be expanded? More people should be traveling by that now. But nothing is hard. Nobody is talking about it. People are talking about NNPC MD. How many people can become an NNPC MD? It is those people that are close to the president, Abi. Although they also have to be competent, but there are people who are high up there, So what I'm saying is, I'm not in any way defending Malam Kyari. No, I've never met him. I see him on TV, even though I must say that based on what I have seen in recent times, the revival of Port Harcourt, the old Port Harcourt refinery, because we are still expecting the bigger one to come into operation. Yeah, the level of the extent to which they have been able to rehabilitate Warri refinery, and they're also talking about Kaduna and talking about the rest. Yeah, so because of that, I think that he's doing well, and in my estimation, he has done a bit better than past MDs of the NNPC. So that's my take.
Well, I must thank you, Mr. Sanya Adejokun, for taking our time to review these issues in the news this morning, and we're wishing you the best of the rest of the day ahead.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day too. Yeah.
Well then.